All right, so here is the turkey. Here I got my large segment on barbecue. Here is the actual bird itself. I'll let you guys see this here. Now this turkey's around 20 pounds or so, I believe, from when I purchased it. Now, of course, a good amount of that's probably cooking off right now, so you can get a look at how this is working. Now, I use a special rack for this because I'm insane enough to buy a turkey cooking rack because, as you guys have probably started to realize by this point, this is not the first time that I am doing this. So, let's take a couple pictures of this delightful little bird. And one of the things we got to talk about whenever we talk about is the seasoning. So, if you're cooking a turkey on the grill, you're going to want to make use of your seasonings. So, take a little salt, and we're going to sprinkle this all on the bird. I'm going to take some pepper, and we're going to sprinkle that on the bird. And I'm really sorry if the lighting is a little off on this. Now, this is going to look rather nasty, but this is actually a mix of butter, and it's since turned a little bit dark from the carbon. And what you're going to do is you're going to lather this on top of your bird. Now, the butter is very important. One, because butter makes everything better, as they say. Note, this is what cooks say. Cardiologists pretty much say the opposite. So don't say this to your doctor. He or she will get very annoyed. But definitely say it to any cook you encounter. They will definitely sympathize. Unless they're a vegan health food cook, at which point, no. But, what are you going to do about that? So, you're going to want to baste this. And what you're doing here is, the butter does two effects. One, it helps to season the bird. It helps to give it that nice buttery, flaky flavor. And two, it helps to preserve the moisture. Right? One of the big issues whenever you cook is that you're inherently adding heat. Right? Now, the thing about heat is, as anybody will tell you, the more you cook something, right? One of the big issues that's going to originate whenever we talk about cooking is this kind of quintessential problem, right? You'll remember from your days in science class, water, when it gets heated, will evaporate. It will vaporize. Now, you don't want to now the problem with that is you don't want your meat to become dry, right? You're bitten into a piece of poultry and it has the consistency of, basically it's starting to feel a little bit less like you're chewing a bird and more like maybe you're gnawing on a piece of cardboard. That's because the person has let all the moisture get out of it. Now, the big reason why this is such a problem with poultry is because of salmonella. See, poultry is one of the most dangerous meats to serve undercooked. And in case you're wondering what I'm doing right now, I'm putting out some of the grease fires on the grill. Now, the thing is, when we talk about the birds, one of the things that becomes a major problem is this issue that we call evaporation, right? Because what happens is you want to cook the bird hot because without it, it will become infected. It could still harbor diseases. And especially in this current climate, we don't want anyone going to the hospital for any unnecessary reasons. So because of this, we want to cook the bird thoroughly. So the bird should have a hot internal temperature, well in excess of 200 degrees Fahrenheit. The problem, usually closer to 300, 350. The problem with this is at that temperature, right, 300 to 300 degrees Fahrenheit is well over the typical boiling point of water. So because of this, you end up with a system where the water temperature, the water starts trying to evaporate, right? It starts vaporizing, it starts cooking off. This leaves the muscle and the skin of the bird devoid of water. It's something you want to avoid. So to do this, we add the butter. The butter acts as a sort of supplement, right? To tie to economics, this is sort of your equivalent of a stimulus package, right? Right. So why am I doing this? One, I wanted to show you guys that you can cook without the use of gas or electric, which is very handy, especially as we encounter a power grid that is increasingly becoming oversaturated. Now, one last thing. There's a little onion powder I'm going to show you guys. We're going to add a little onion onto the bird. Let's put that on. All right, sprinkle the onion onto the fire. Let that come up. Let some nice onion fumes get some smoke come into the bird. Now, the reason why we like to do this is the smoke can also provide a flavor, right? It's one of the advantages of using charcoal. The other advantage is that this type of technology is very easy to utilize, right? Charcoal can be purchased at almost any store, any gas station, any convenience store tends to sell the stuff. The other reason why I want to teach everyone about charcoal is because of another very simple, for two other reasons that I think economically makes sense to talk about. One is the fact that anything you do with charcoal can be switched over to wood in an emergency. And the reason why it's important is in case you ever are in a scenario where you're experiencing spotty power interruptions, either because of a failure on the part of the utility or the government, or because, heaven forbid, you're in a bad financial situation and you can't afford the electric or gas bill, you can always gather some kind of wood from someplace, and you can use it in place of this. The other reason I like to bring up charcoal is because of the fact that charcoal grills actually tend to be cheaper. And while the one I'm using here is a slightly larger one, this I believe is I want to say it's a 20 by 22 inch rectangle of a grill plus a little added piece over here. You can actually purchase much smaller grills for as low as about $20. So for many families, I understand that a lot of people, they don't do summer barbecue, they don't do home grilling because they feel price-wise it's out of range. And while I admit $20 can be a bit, it's not entirely the worst. So for that reason, I like to bring up charcoal. Now, not everybody does. Some folks do, like my dad, whose grill is also stored over here. He likes to use propane. Now, the reason I don't advise propane is propane has a few issues. One, its price fluctuates more because it is based on the same fossil fuel market, the same natural gas markets that other companies use. So you are dealing with a product that there's a very high competition for. Just the same way that your gasoline prices are affected by the price of crude oil, which is also used in other productions, your propane is going to suffer from a similar cost effect. The other issue is, whereas charcoal isn't really as utilized in other industries, especially the lower quality charcoals that tend to be used for cooking as opposed to the activated charcoals that are used for like cosmetics and poison control. So because of that, for you guys, I do recommend, especially for a first grill, I recommend experimenting more with charcoal. It also adds better flavor, in my opinion. The only benefit to gas is that it's easier to control the temperature, right? It's more like cooking with a gas stove in the house using a propane grill. That's the main advantage. So that's something you can definitely experiment with. Now, some other things to know. So that's another thing with gas grills. The other issue is storing gas grills. I've had to help my folks move a lot of times in my life, and I'm going to tell you this. It's always very interesting when you have a U-Haul and you're taking a jug of propane and putting it next to the chairs, and you're like, gee, I hope that doesn't blow up. Honestly, it won't. These canisters are actually very safe, but it's just another thing to transport. Propane is a little more hazardous in that regard because it's much more flammable. So that's just what it is. But yeah, I make sure I have a bit of a bias. I don't particularly think propane is a great investment. I know there's a few people out there that probably feel very differently. They like their propane grills, and that's fine. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little segment on how to cook a turkey on the grill. Now, pretty much you just put this bird on and you let it rock. You just don't do much with it. And what's going to happen is in a little while this bird's going to finish up and we can talk more about what to do with it. The big thing that's another advantage is that it makes the meat very tender. Every aspect of the bird, when cooked in this manner, is going to be very tender. So you're going to have a bird that feels very, basically it feels very tender to the very tender to the bite, and it's going to be much more manageable from that standpoint. And because it's more tender in the beginning, it will survive more frequent reheats, which is another interesting economic standpoint of softening up the meat, is that it allows the meat to survive, to be a little more resilient. Sorry, that's what I'm looking for. Resilient when it comes to reheating. So I hope you enjoyed this little tie-in economics and cooking. I might have another one of these popping up. I'm sorry it wasn't in the initial installment, but I couldn't quite justify cooking the turkey a few days early, and with how limited supplies are these days, it would seem wasteful to cook a turkey a few days beforehand, just turn around and cook another one on Easter Sunday. If you're asking me why I didn't just cook the turkey early and cook ham, I'm sorry, nobody in my household actually likes, not me, not any of my relatives, none of them actually like ham, so it would have been, again, a waste of resources. And right now, with food still being a bit of a hot commodity, it doesn't really seem ethical to, waste a turkey or waste a ham. So, I'm sorry. On top of that, I really don't know how to cook a ham. I'll be perfectly real with you guys. And for that reason, I'm not going to be showing you guys a video on how to cook a ham. I'd say talk to somebody who's actually made a ham that tastes decent, and ask them how to do it if you are convinced you want to cook a ham for a special occasion. So I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm going to give you guys one last look at the turkey as we open up the grill. And I hope you guys enjoyed that.